Hello everyone, I'm glad you're here with me again. We definitely are witnessing today one of the most intensive and drastic social engineering programs of all times. In a very short period of time, new rituals have been formed in schools, in shops, in public places, in restaurants, through wearing masks and social distancing rituals, new symbols and signs on the streets, in shops, indicating that this is not a temporary situation, but rather a permanent status quo that has no intention to be ended unless it's been taken down by force, just like it was imposed by force. Now here we can witness how the narcissistic manipulators in politics and on the mainstream media are using terms and twisting them, or reframing them, or redefining them in ways that can benefit their political agenda, and how the ignorant and the enablers are using those terms without any regard to the intention behind that usage, using them and repeating that and repeating, creating the illusion that this is the real meaning of the term or the only definition of the term. So I decided to make this video, to pay attention to that, and in order not to fall into the trap of the war on terminology. 1. The term liberal comes from the term liberty, which means freedom. Liber means free. Liberal means pro-freedom. This is the literal meaning of the term, but today it indicates the people who are trying to control others, forcing them into wearing masks, forcing them into lockdowns, forcing them into restrictions for political and economical purposes and interests. But they use the term liberal in order to hide behind its positive vibe that is still resonating like this in the minds of those who have not detected the shift yet. Such confusion happens also with the other terms. 2. Antifa, which is supposed to mean anti-fascists. It is supposed to indicate to those who resist fascism, and it might have been like this in a certain place and time, but today it became another mask for the fascists themselves to hide behind. 3. Capitalism. This is an economical system that is supposed to indicate to a bureaucratic system that allows everyone to grow. Everyone and anyone, meaning that if someone is competent, he can use his or her skills in order to grow themselves financially and therefore to grow also the environment through providing jobs for others, increase production and export. So capitalism here acknowledges the significance of competence, and it also acknowledges the significance of meritocracy. That's why the system doesn't stand between the competent and success with heavy measures and unnecessary abusive bureaucracy. Anyway, when you use this term today, we indicate to the shift that's happened to that system, where the big tech or the corporations are the ones who actually dictate the policies, the national policies, like the oil companies dictating the wars in the Middle East, or the pharma industry dictating abusive health policies for financial profit. This control of the corporations over the political system is the very definition of fascism. So some people might be surprised now that their capitalistic system has already been hijacked a long time ago and shifted into fascism. The same thing with socialism. It's supposed to mean that society shares the wealth, the national resources, but actually what happens in real life is control of the bureaucrats over the national wealth, which makes the system the oligarchy of the bureaucrats. So politicians drive fancy cars and fly with private jets and make 5 vacations like in Germany, while entrepreneurs and business people who actually create the wealth, who actually work and produce, some of them can't afford 1 vacation, and many of them must waste so much time in the subways because they can't afford a private vehicle. Those are the businesses that actually finance the bureaucrats in the first place. 5. Democracy. You can see what's happening today in the United States. Democracy is supposed to mean rule of the people, but what actually is happening on the ground, that we face parasitic politicians, call themselves the Democrats. Parasitic entities like Pelosi, Biden, etc. enable fascism and control of the corporations in order to impoverish their environments while enriching themselves and becoming the oligarchs of their societies. I think this is a historical phenomenon to observe and to witness how parasitic the human nature can be when we allow it to. The same thing in Europe. This fascism was there in the shadows for a long, long time. But we succeed to witness it today because of the social media and the genuine free exchange of information on social media, at least until today. 6. Solidarity. I hear this term a lot, especially on European media. It is supposed to mean mutual support, but what actually it means on the ground, that everyone must support the narcissist without question and crush all those who refuse to be part of the corruption. We can see so many celebrities and actors go on TV and tell people how they should stay home. In the lockdowns, they should not work, they should stay home. Of course, they themselves have millions in the banks and they can stay for months and maybe for years without any need to work, while telling the people who have zero reserves and have so many bills to pay, they tell them they need to show solidarity and not to work, and that they are system irrelevant. It is so important to pay attention to the context that those terms are being used in, because the narcissists use it in a context that makes it look objective, but actually it's been designed since the beginning for narcissistic purposes, and it's very, very subjective. The same person who calls for solidarity is the same person who calls those who want to breathe freely COVID-idiots. The same person who incites against those who refuse to wear masks because they want to breathe. Look how the narcissists make the empathic look narcissist while they themselves call themselves solidaric. It is the same person who makes it impossible for private businesses to survive by adding more and more parasitic burdens on the shoulders of people who are actually financing this society and maintaining it and sustaining it in the first place. Those businesses are not those who consume the tax, like the bureaucrats, but actually those who pay it, who create the wealth. The left wing, the right wing, radicals, those terms are supposed to indicate too a political tendency, but actually many parasitic entities are using those terms in order to infiltrate or to allow groups infiltrate those terms in order to achieve political objectives through creating more chaos and destruction and fear. Radical right wing, radical left wing, the objective of the chaos created by those radical groups is to justify a desired response. We know the historical Reichstag fire that was insinuated by Nazis in order to justify the attack on the political opponents. So they could use that as a justification to outlaw them. Of course, the system can use radicals in order to justify a collective retaliation or to support a collective retaliation, like what happened in the Kristallnacht. The Nazis used one Jewish boy in order to allow the masses destroy the businesses and the houses of the Jewish community. The government sits back and enjoys how the masses behave out of hatred, because that ignorance and cowardice keep the masses distracted from the real criminals and the real crimes of the politicians that might be millions of times more severe than one Jewish boy. The enablers want to restore some of their dignity, some of their national dignity that was stolen from them by their own governments, but they don't have the courage to face their own governments. So what they do is that they attack one scapegoat. The same thing is still happening today, just change names. Those were 7 terms that are being used obsessively on mainstream media and are being twisted. I even see intelligent people fall into those traps. I hope now we can be more aware of them. If you have more terms that you'd like to discuss, write them below in the comments so I can read them. Thank you everyone for staying with me. I hope I could shed some light on this. I'm Shredy Jabarin. Ciao.